Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good, good. Welcome to Petrified Paranormal TV.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, let's start off with what's your name? Where are you from?
Well, my name's Paul Howard, and I'm from England, Surrey, or Surrey in England, the UK,
Okay. All right.
just
Okay,
out
let's
of just outside of London. So I'm the founder of Host for Ghosts Paranormal in Surrey.
oh, that's awesome. So I imagine you've seen quite a bit, huh?
Yeah, yeah, I've seen quite a bit. I've been in the paranormal world for about 20 years now. Sort of, I studied parapsychology at university as a mature student, so I did it after work. So I studied about parapsychology, which sort
Okay.
of led me into the paranormal world. Then from then on,
Okay. Let's uh let's kick it off with, one of the questions I always like to start with. What is something that you would maybe point out as at least one of like your craziest instances, or what's one of the experiences you've had that really kind of set you back and said, "Whoa, that was pretty crazy."
I think probably one of the better ones I've had is obviously where we live in the UK, and the house we live in is haunted anyway. So we've caught a video of a spirit here with a child in the early hours of the morning. I suppose one of my memorable ones would be seeing my first apparition, really, on an investigation where we were doing an investigation in a very old house, a 15th century house, which was a training school for vets. So, and we were taking guests around the house. So we were the house is set on three floors. So you had ground, middle, and upper floor.
Okay.
So we had three different experiments set on three different floors. So the guests would get used to using Ouija boards as a contact. The next
Yeah.
one was like calling out. The next floor was calling out and try and see if something would happen, come along. And the top floor was more visual than experiment. So we put down trigger objects, cat balls, various things to see if we could get them triggered. Laser grids, the dot lasers across the
Yeah.
walls.
Okay.
So in my group was about 8 people, including myself. So it was about seven of us, six women and myself, and we'd done the ground floor first. So we were in three groups. So we just swapped each group would get each different floor, so they would all each have a different experience of communication with spirit.
Okay.
So we'd done the ground floor and had lots of contact, lots of noise, tapping, footsteps, etc. So we went to the center floor. So we were standing. If you imagine it's a house, but it has four sides, so it's like a square house.
Okay.
So and when you're standing in the middle, you're actually looking across to the other side of the corridor. So you'd have four corridors. So opposite, we're looking out of a window that's looking into a window on the opposite side, and the same on the left and right. So we were standing there, and I was calling out, to any spirits here, can you come and join us? We'll come with the utmost respect for you, and can you please do something for us? Show these lovely people, how good you are. And then on the opposite corridor, we saw this pure white and blue flash. Thought, that's strange. There shouldn't be anybody here with a camera. So I left the group, walked around the other three corridors, couldn't see anybody, but noticed this corridor we were in was the coldest of the three. The others were quite warm. Well, that's strange. Okay, so maybe you know. So I checked the windows, came back to the main group, and I said if anything happened. They said, "Well, no, it's sort of cold in here."
Yeah.
So we're standing there, I started to call out again. If that's you that we saw in the blue light, could you please? And there it was again, like a massive white flash of blue light. And like, so went the opposite way around the corridor in case someone was just sort of, going the opposite way around.
Okay.
Couldn't see anybody. So came back to our group where the ladies were. So if you imagine we're in the middle of the corridor looking out the window and the ladies were to the left of me, right sort of on the corner. So as I called out, I suddenly got this feeling in my stomach like something was going to happen. When you get that sudden feeling, you think, right,
Yes. Oh
something's
yeah.
going to happen.
For
Your
sure.
body's brilliant, isn't it? It tells you everything you need
Mm-hmm.
to know. You don't need equipment, you just need your body and listen to what your
Right.
body says to you. So I did calling out, and I suddenly felt the atmosphere change in the corridor, and then I felt it in myself. Right, someone's here, someone's standing here, and to my right, literally less than a meter away, was a door to the corridor with a glass pane in it.
Okay.
So the women are sort of to my left, right in the corner, and I'm calling out. And as I sort of looked to my right to have a look, because I thought I saw something in the corner of my eye, I saw a face pushing up against the glass, that funny face like
Oh,
that. And I looked at the glass, looked back, I thought, oh, who's that? And I know there's nobody there.
yeah.
And I looked again and it was still there. It was like his eyes were looking in the corridor, like looking at us. And I thought, oh no.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, I've asked it to come and it's here. And I said,
Right.
Spirit, can you come in the corridor with us? Can you come and stand with us? And as I looked back again, I looked out the glass window. And as I looked again, he was standing right by the side of me. And I looked at him and went, oh. And a split second later, the women on the corner of the room saw him. And he literally came from nowhere. And he looked like he was looking at us in the corridor. They screamed. One lady passed out. The others run out the fire exit, which set off all the alarms. I looked back and in split second he'd gone. And then what we do, like if we have a vision like that, we then separate the people away from each other and try and get a story. Right, what did you see? And try and because if they all stand together, they're going to talk to each other, and you can be a little bit persuaded, can't you, by what other people say?
Right.
So I sort of they sort of all rushed out, so all in outside in the car park, sort of trying to light cigarettes, and they were all shaking, and so the lady that was running the group sort of split them apart.
Okay.
And she asked them all, "What did you see? What happened? What's the description?" So she got all the descriptions. Said to me, "What happened there?" So I told her exactly what had happened. I said he was standing there. He was right by the neck, right side to me. I could feel him, and as I looked, he was clearly there, like you are to me here.
Of course. Yeah.
And we described him. So what it turns out is after we'd done the whole of the night of investigation, we then Googled him to see who he was, and he was the architect that built the building, and he's often
Oh,
seen there sometimes in the evenings walking up and down the corridors. Nobody stays late in the office because they're too scared, because a few people have had like balls rolling past the doors if they
okay.
stay there late. So, and we went to the third floor after that, and we were in there. So we had laser grids and cat balls and all the bits set out, and everybody was sort of within awe because we'd seen, which is very unusual to see an apparition, especially
For
six,
sure.
seven of us all at the split second. I saw him first because I saw him looking in the glass, and then they were obviously, and as we were standing there, we had a laser grid in. So we were in one room and the laser grid was in the opposite room opposite. And then we heard like what sounded like a knock on the door. And we're
Okay.
like, hello? Hello? You're supposed to be in your group. And then nothing. And then as we looked out the door into the room where the laser grid was, we saw this black shadow walking along the laser grid. And we're all standing there. So all the ladies have now got very much closer because now, and
Right.
it like walked. So we were watching the shadow and it disappeared. And then we were looking at the door and it's, I can only describe it as such a beautiful orb, like a feather shaped orb, very blue, purpley in colour. So, and
And
it came,
did you see this with the naked eye, or was this
yeah,
with a camera?
no, with the eye. And then
Oh,
we were all
wow.
together and we all looked up. And I said to everybody, stand still. Has anybody got their phones on? Is it a reflection we're seeing from a phone? And they're all
Right.
saying no. By this time, they're all sort of gathered around me. And we actually stood there and watched this orb. And it was like a feather shape in blue and purple, very beautiful colour. Came
Okay.
in the door. It sort of went right the way round us, like looking at us, out the door. And they're all saying, what is that? What is that? So just stay still. Just stay still. Let's just watch. And then a split second later, we saw the black shadow of this spirit come past the laser grid and heard the door shut and gone. And that was
Let me
all
ask
we
you a
saw.
question. Do
Yeah,
you think that was the same guy, or do you think that was maybe something different?
I think it was someone different. I had that
Okay.
feeling in my body that it was a female energy. It's a
Okay. Just because of the coloring and
well, yeah, it was such a I don't know, a spectacular color. The pure color was just phenomenal. I'd never seen anything. I'd seen orbs before, but
okay.
I'd never seen anything this blue and purple and
This is the first that I have ever heard somebody actually seeing an orb with like the naked eye. Only
yeah,
time I've ever seen an orb or heard of somebody seeing an orb was like through a camera, like holding on your
sure.
phone or through a video camera, never like actually seeing it.
Yeah, but what threw us was this the few seconds before we saw the shadow walking across the laser grid. So all the dots were breaking up into shadow, and I can only imagine the shadow was no more than 5 foot, very tiny type of woman. Well,
Okay.
I got the feeling it was a woman. The energy in the room felt like a woman because it didn't feel threatening or you didn't feel insecure. You just felt really calm and it's the first time I'd ever seen this type of orb that actually it literally looked like a feather, that shape of a feather, but a beautiful purple and blue. It was such fantastic. And I thought it was on someone's phone, and something was shining off a phone, created it.
Right.
And everybody didn't have their phones because everybody put their hands up, and it literally went completely around us as we watched it come round and out the door. The shadow appeared and disappeared off the laser grid. And we
That's
just stood there
crazy.
looking at each other, going, "What did we do?" And having six people see it, and myself,
Right.
we just none of us could really understand what we see. I knew what I'd seen. I knew it was an orb or some manifestation of a spirit. They were
Of
saying,
course.
"What
Yeah.
was that beautiful color? What was that actually moving around the room?" And I said, "Well, that to me, that's like an orb, or a manifestation of a spirit that's moving." They said, "But how can it be such beautiful colors?" And it literally was in the same house. And I
Okay.
felt that it was a female energy within myself, not a male.
Okay. That makes sense. What happened with the little girl that you seen? Did you ever follow up on that? Try to figure out who she was, or
Well, the little girl is obviously there's a story leading up to it. We were had little things happen here because we live in a little bit of the countryside in the UK.
okay,
So we're near no main roads or subways or anything like that. So there's no vibration or anything in the house, and we live in a bungalow.
okay,
So various things had happened, like uh, we were sitting here one night, myself and my partner Jenny, who's a psychic medium, does cards and readings and all of that. So we were sort of sitting in the lounge watching telly, and we heard this really strange noise. We're thinking, what on earth is that noise? So we both went out into the kitchen. It was quite a hot summer for a change in the UK, so we had the windows open.
yeah,
So as we went out into the kitchen, like I went out first, and Jenny was right behind me. There was a lemonade bottle spinning in the middle of the floor of the kitchen, literally just spinning, and it just sort of stopped and rolled towards the open windows. And we're thinking, right, so maybe it was a warning from spirit that the windows are open, and we've left the windows open.
okay,
So we shut the windows, carried on the night. Nothing else happened that night. A few days later, 2:10 in the morning, I think it was the early hours of the morning, we're fast asleep and heard this crash, bang, smash. For what was that? Thinking someone was trying to break in. So
yeah,
we both jumped out of bed, run into the lounge and then into the kitchen, only to find the kitchen clock laying on the floor, all smashed, but the hanger was still in the wall, but the clock had stopped at 2:10 in the morning. So, well, this is really odd. So
yeah.
various little things were building up. So we kept smelling smoke because neither of us smoked, so we kept getting a waft of smoke in the room.
Okay,
So you think we were known, we knew there was something happening because obviously we're both psychic mediums, so we could pick up various things that were starting to happen. The atmosphere in the house didn't change for bad, and it was just changing. We knew it, we could feel it. And then again, I was in bed, we were in bed, and heard this noise, and I thought, what on earth is that? And as I sat up, I looked out of our bedroom door just to see the wind, a big picture roll off the wall and roll along the floor and stop. And I thought, what on earth is this? So I went out again, checked it. The hanger was still in the wall. So okay, so they're building something up because we
okay,
do believe there's a portal in our hallway because it certain times it feels cold and we feel people spirit coming in and out. So this one night I said, "Do you know, I've got a new camera. I'm going to put the camera on at night, so let it run all night and see if we pick up anything. You know, something's got to happen."
Right.
So anyway, it's on YouTube anyway under Host for Ghosts. So, and we often hear conversations, people talking. You know, when we're talking, we can hear it. And one day,
And it's not like an apartment, it's just a house. So it
yeah,
wouldn't be like something you're hearing from a different living situation.
no, obviously we live in a bungalow, so we're adjoined to each. There's a bungalow either side, so we often sit here, hear a conversation, we go quiet, and we can't hear the next door neighbour or anything. We just hear a
Okay.
conversation. So anyway, my partner Jenny went out. She'd been out shopping and come back, and she could hear a conversation as she came through the front door. So, oh no, you know the grandchildren had turned. That's just what I need, because she was
Right.
coming in and going straight back out again. Oh, what are they doing here? And then she came in. She said, "Oh, hello." Opened the door and there was nobody there, but she actually heard a conversation of like a woman and a child talking.
Oh,
So
wow.
so we left the camera on the side. So it's one of them, you like, we call it trail cameras, trail. You know, they're
Trail
infrared.
cam?
Yes, what they
Y-
film animals at night with. So I thought I'd
Yeah.
try one for ghost hunting, because obviously we do private investigations, so we could leave it in the house for a few days and it would record. So,
Okay.
and we've done that a few times in the private locations. So anyway, I came in, got up in the morning, come to work. We didn't hear anything all night. Jen thought she heard a knock knock, like someone knocking, but no one was there. And I could see the red light flashing, saying it had recorded an incident, recorded something during the night. Oh, okay. So I came home from work, loaded it into my laptop, started to have a look. About the camera switches on and off few times during the night, where you can see these orbs floating through the picture. So they obviously had set it off, and then it said recorded seven 7.5 minutes. And I thought, what could it have recorded for 7.5 minutes? So I wound it, kept going through and through, because remember it had gone for about 7 hours. So it's
Yeah.
quite a lot of footage to run through.
Right.
So and it jumps, so it takes a 20-second video and then three pictures. So it runs the video, takes three pictures and does that. So
Okay.
when I wound it back, I was sitting there looking, and what you see, and you'll see it on on our YouTube channel, is that the camera starts to wobble, so you get a massive amount of static in the room, and it's very quiet here because we're obviously in the countryside, and the camera
Yeah.
starts to wobble, so a bit like that. It's doing that,
Okay.
like something's, but it was on a solid bookcase, and then you hear a like a breath come over it. And I'm like, what is this? And then you hear another breath again, but longer, and then the camera's recorded, and then you're looking at the picture of our lounge door, which is slightly cracked open. The camera's recorded, so you hear the crackling, the static, which is a build-up of energy within the room, and a couple of breaths, and it stops for a split second, and then actually starts to record again. So this time it's actually zooming in on the crack in the door, and the crack in the door becomes wider, so you can actually see into our hallway.
Does
So
that mean that
imagine
the door is opening by itself?
you don't see it open, but the next few after it starts to record, the door is open, but you don't actually
Oh,
see the door move open. Yeah.
right.
So it shoots the first part of the video, and the door's got a little tiny sort of gap in it. The video
Yeah.
stops when everything stops, and then the video starts again, but the door's cracked open more. So it's a lot wider, but you don't actually see it move.
Right.
And then a split second later, and as you're looking at the crack in the door, you see suddenly a spirit appear, a face looking around the door like that into the lounge. And then as you're looking at the spirit, you'll see it for a few seconds. You'll see the child spirit standing by the side of it. And the lady looks around the door, and then it's the only video where you actually see the spirit manifest. So you see her appear, look round the door, and then you see her disappear, and you hear dunk dunk, and then as you keep watching the video, an orb comes in the room and disappears out and leaves the child standing in the hallway. So I couldn't believe we were seeing. So I said to Jenny, "Come and have a look at this. See what you make of this. Could it have been us?" She said, "Well, no, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. We're asleep, so it can't have been us." So
Right.
anyway, I sent it to a friend of mine who's a paranormal investigator on TV. So I said, "Have a look at this video, see what you make of it. Do you think this could be a camera glitch or something's gone on, but it's all too structured to be something to do with a camera?" So he said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." So I said to him, "When, oh my God, what have you just caught with that camera?" So I don't actually know what we've got. I don't know what I'm seeing in this picture, but you actually
Right.
see the lady appear, look round the corner, disappear, and then leave the child standing there. So he said, "Would you mind if I sent it to some people to get them to have a look at it?" I said, "No, send it to who you like." He said, "Because this is unseen footage before. We may well use it on the TV in
Right.
the Unexplained Court on camera, and it's live on there." So I hadn't heard anything for a couple of weeks. He came back to me. He said, "You're not going to believe what we found on this video." I said, "Oh, all right. It's genuine. It's not camera." He said, "Yeah, it's totally genuine." He sent it to a friend of his who works with cameras, like he's a forensic scientist. So he looks at the police take pictures and he looks at the data within the picture, like they call it the metadata,
Right.
distance, height, timings, all this type of stuff. He said, "You're not going to believe what we've actually seen." So what the first part of the video where you hear the crackle in the breath and then the video stops was 03:07 a.m. So it's the early hour, 10 past 3 in the morning in the early hours. The camera stops and then starts recording when the lady appears with the spirit, and that records at 03:06. So it's actually gone back a minute, but the timing is still ticking forward. The seconds are ticking forward, but it's gone back just about a minute. The police reckon it had gone back. Well, this guy said it's gone back at least 59 seconds in time because he got it from the from the data. So the first part of the video was shot at 03:07 a.m. in the morning. The
Right.
second part of the video, though it was counting forward, recorded at 03:06 a.m. So it had actually gone back in time, and
That's crazy.
it's on the Unexplained Court on camera. You see it there where they talk about, and they said that they're saying this, you just don't know. He said to me, they just do not know how it could have gone. So I said, maybe it's a glitch in the time in the card, in the memory card. He said, no, because the clock's still counting forward, and no time's gone back. So
Right.
that's where the child and the adult comes in. So we did a little bit of investigation ourselves, trying to find out who
So
it
let me
was.
try to understand this. You said first a woman appeared,
Yeah,
okay?
with a child right behind her.
And then she went away and just left the kid by himself.
Yeah, just it was a little, what looked like a child, a female child, very small,
Yeah.
and she like came down, and you see it. She sort of disappears in, and then you see the orb come in the room and disappear, but the child's still there, still stands there looking in the bedroom where we are. And after that, the camera stops recording, and then it just that's it. She's gone. The next time the camera comes on, there's no one there.
Wow.
So really,
That's
really strange,
yeah, that's
strange.
awesome though.
And my partner Jenny has a daughter in spirit, two daughters in spirit, which has sadly passed at a very young age.
Aw.
So we do wonder whether one of them was one of her eldest one that's come back in to have a look, because it was it around her birthday that time. I can't remember. We're not sure. It's around her birthday. So we sort of looked at it and thought, well, do we show the neighbours or what do we do? We don't know who this lady is. So we decided to sort of bite the bullet, for want of a word, because you know yourself sometimes. If you explain this to someone, they think you're a bit mad, don't they?
Of
You're
course,
seeing
yeah.
things. You know, how can you work? How could you know that? And we showed the lady next door, and she said, "Oh, that's the lady that used to live there, and she was a heavy smoker, and she died in the house where you are." And they identified the woman coming in as the lady that used to live here.
Oh, wow.
Amazing, amazing footage.
That's really awesome.
Because when my partner come to look at the bungalow, because obviously previous to that, months before that, she was having to move from one location to another. And
Okay.
Spirit kept she kept saying to Spirit, when am I moving? They said, well, someone has to pass for you to move. So she kept getting this in the dreams and keys and things like that. So sadly, the lady here had passed away. So my partner turned up with a dog, like a little white Maltese dog. And one of the
Okay.
neighbours said, "Oh, what are you doing with Lily?" She said, "Oh no, it's Poppy." She said, "No, no, that's Lily. That's Lily that used to live in the house." She said, "No, no, no, that's Poppy. This is my dog Poppy." And my partner had the same dog as the lady that lived in the house that died. Exactly the same dog. And they thought it was the same dog, but it wasn't. It was my partner's dog. And they said,
Oh,
"Oh my
wow.
word." You know, she said, "That's Lily." Jenny said, "No, no, no, that's Poppy. That's Poppy, my dog." She said, "No, no,
Wow.
no, that's the dog that used to live there." Jenny went, "No, it's not. It's my dog." So it's exactly the same dog that lived
What's the odds
here.
of that?
Well, this is what we couldn't understand when my Jenny told us, and then we saw the picture of the lady, and she verified it was her that lived here. She recognised the face because if you stop it and actually zoom in, you can actually see the facial details, like the hair and the face and all of that. This is our paranormal Poppy.
Oh.
Say hello, Pops. Say hello, Pops.
Hey,
She
how are
goes.
you?
This is me.
That's Jenny.
Oh yeah.
Hi, Jenny. Nice to meet you.
You too.
So Poppy comes with us at
Yeah.
all our paranormal events. We call her Paranormal Poppy.
Oh, that's awesome.
But exactly the same dog. My neighbour couldn't believe it.
Couldn't believe they had exactly the same dog
Yeah.
as the lady that lived here
That's
previous.
crazy.
What's the chances of that?
No such thing as
Yeah.
coincidence.
Wow. That's really cool. Let me ask you one last question here because
Yeah,
we've
of
only got a
course.
couple of more minutes of recording time. Now it seems like everything that I'm just taking a whole, surrounding of everything that you've experienced, everything you shared with us today. It doesn't seem like anything was evil. So you think more
No.
spirits that exist or are around are more just residual spirits as opposed to something that's more sinister, I'm assuming, right?
I think, the energy you give off is what you attract. If you give off good energy, you get good spirit. If you go looking for negative stuff, then I feel myself, the same as Jenny, we do a lot of investigations and we host a lot of investigations for teams, but we don't go looking for negative stuff because we don't know what we're dealing with, to be honest with you.
Right.
So I think, like attracts like. So if you've got good energy and you're calm, then you'll get good energy and good spirits come in. I mean, I have had encounters with negative spirits. I'd be lying if I said I didn't. I
Right.
have when I was in an asylum once many years ago,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
that type of situation. But all the times that we've been doing many, many, many years of investigations, we've never come home with anything. We've never had any attachments, and we've only had things for the good, you know.
Okay. That
So
sounds
we don't go
that sounds
looking
great.
for it. So, we see the residual as like a videotape where it's playing in its certain like energy's caught in the walls in the building, and at certain times of the year it plays back like a videotape.
I've had a lot of people explain that to me or tell me that that's the way it goes. It's just kind of hard for me to grasp how that works. You know
Sure,
what I mean?
sure. It's like when I saw our first apparition, I would say that was intelligent because he when I asked him to come in the corridor, he appeared in the corridor. So he
Right.
couldn't have been residual because he didn't pass through us. He just literally stood there looking at each and individual one of us in the corridor. So, I would say that was intelligent, not once for yes, twice for no, like we all do. And you get the response back. To me, that's a very intelligent spirit or a spirit
Right.
that would like to communicate. And it's like using the Ouija board. You're watching what that's doing. You can tell whether something nasty's coming in because the way the board reacts and the way you feel in that energy, in that room, or in that position, you
I've been
feel,
in that position for absolute sure. I
yeah,
had a when my first daughter was born, while she was being baptized, I had a cross on my neck that was blessed at that same time at a Catholic church. Okay. And we were doing a Ouija board And we did it in the apartment that we were in the house upstairs, and everything went fine and nothing really happened. We got a couple of answers, okay? But as soon as I went to walk out of that house, I felt like something was pulling me back and it snapped that necklace right off of my neck.
Oh wow.
So, in that sense, I'm assuming whatever we pulled through at that time had to be evil, which is why
Yeah.
I like to ask that question: how much evil is out there? What do people experience? And if this is a thing that goes around, how did you rid yourself of it? So I can, help the viewers out there.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it's being in control of the situation, isn't it? Knowing the signs, watching for the signs,
Right.
and like, grounding yourself and putting yourself in a cloak of protection, like we do when we go to any investigation before
And how do
anybody
you how do
turns
you go
up.
about doing that?
We ask the Archangel Michael to protect us and cover us in a cloak of light. And, anything that's within the building is to stay in the building, is not to follow us, because that building is their home. And ask the Archangel Michael to cover everybody that walks through the door. So any
Okay.
guest that we take into an investigation, we put not a spell, but we put a grounding around the front door. So as they came
Okay.
in, they walked through the bubble of
Almost like
light.
putting salt in front of the doorway.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. So they walk through the protection light. So when they come in, and it's the same going out, we do a close it down prayer, with people
Oh.
there. We close down the situation. So if you close it down, there's no communication, there's no portal left open, there's nothing left. You can walk out of there, shut the door, lock it, and know that you're walking out on your own and you're not going home with someone that's not going to pay for the fuel. You just leave them in.
That's true.
So you
That's
leave them in the
true.
house. So
All right.
in all the 20 years we've done it, we've never had anything come home with us.
Wow.
So we do
Wow.
believe
So
in the
that
Archangel
that goes
Michael.
to show that you're doing it the right way, because I have had people I've spoke with and stories I've read that they do go home with them and they do experience negative things after the fact.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, no, we've never had an issue. And 9 times out of 10, we follow up with our guests and say, everything okay? How did you enjoy the night? Or we ask for feedback. Let us know how you're feeling. How was the night? Did you enjoy it? Did you get something out of it? How are
okay.
things in your general life? And everything we get back was a brilliant night. We had a fantastic night. Yeah, life is good. We're really enjoying it. We've had nothing. And then we know that the cloak of protection worked, and yet we've had not had anybody in. We've probably had hundreds of guests pass through with us. No one's ever called us and said, I think I've got something wrong. We make sure that we do ground going in, ground coming out, and protect everybody going in and out.
Okay. That sounds awesome. All right, Paul, thank you very much for being on the
Okay,
show. I will
that's cool.
get this spun down for you and I'll get you the link as soon as I get it up there.
Cool. Thank you.
Hopefully we can, after you have some more experiences, maybe in a couple weeks, maybe a month, couple
Sure.
months, we can have you back on again.
Yeah, we've just got a big contract with, I don't know whether you've ever heard it. It's called the English Heritage, and they look after forts and palaces and for the English, and they're a
Okay.
charity, and they don't let anybody go anywhere near because it's history here. The forts, the castles, the palaces, they're all, it's a bit like
Right.
Hampton Court and the Buckingham Palace. It's a bit like that. And
Okay.
they came to us and asked us if we would do a charity night for them, which we did. So it's got the sole exclusivity to any of their stuff, which is castles, forts. We've just done, we're doing a castle, we've done a fort about 2 months ago, and they've asked us to go back to do another one there, which is one of the biggest forts in the south of England. It's called Fort Brockhurst, and
Oh, wow.
it was built in the Napoleonic War, and it housed over 2,000 soldiers during the Napoleonic War and French prisoners of war. And also, it was a fallback during the Second World War for the soldiers. So if Germany had invaded, they had a fallback to a fort. And we're the only ones that's ever been allowed to go into these locations to do them. So nobody's ever done them before. So we're back there on the 25th of April. So we're
That's
looking forward.
awesome. All right.
It's
We'll be in
charity.
contact. Thank you
Yes,
very much, Paul.
you're welcome. Take
Have a
care.
great night.
And you. Take care. Bye.